Serena's not a Sailor Scout, she's a Failure Scout.
Moon Podcast Escalation!
Sailor Moon.
My name is Jordan D. White.
My name is Chris Sims, and this is Sailor Business. It's the podcast where we sit down with a friend and watch every single episode of the classic 1992 Sailor Moon anime and break it down to talk about just why it is that we love this show so much. Because we do love it. Except I don't love it this week.
No! Well, we love it enough to make up for you.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about this one because I know that we're going to have a good discussion with our guest, who is a returning friend of the show. She was here last week. She's been here before. Leanne Centaur is here. Leanne, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me, especially this one.
You requested it. You specifically. We always like to ask people when they're on the show, like, is there an episode you want to come back for? And you said, oh yeah, this one.
Yes.
This is the one you wanted. You said, I want to be here for the Shining Silver Crystal, the Moon Princess appears.
AKA a crystal clear destiny. Yes, exactly.
That was the old version. Sorry, I have a
so excited.
I think Jordan and I are going to be talking a lot about this version of this episode, which was very special.
This episode was, when I was young, this was everybody's favorite episode. This was the episode that everybody remembered and talked about for so long. And I did not expect that it would live up to that. And when I rewatched it 5 years ago, I was like, wow, no, that was great. And when I rewatched it for this, I was like, yeah, that's still great. It's a great episode.
So great.
It's weird that this was everyone's favorite episode because there are like 0 cats' buttholes in this episode. And as I think we all know, that's what's in the episode I like.
I like that episode too, so much, but this is a really good, just a very different kind.
We talked about this a little bit in our last episode, but Leanne, you said that what really drew you to this one was that this is where the gears shift and we get like pure romantic angst for like 4 episodes in a row.
Oh yeah, I mean more than just even romantic angst. This is the real life superhero identity crashing together, the greater ramifications of what your life has become and where it's going to go from here on out. And just sort of brings everything. It takes everything from being silly and fun, which is like great, the earlier episodes. And they had their moments of darkness. And here it's like, think a little bit harder about what situation that you're in and the people who are actually trying to kill you and everything that you represent and what your true mission is. And it's like, oh my God, like I'm a teenager and I have to do all this stuff and all these people in my life might die. And who are the secret identities of all these people? Just, so beautiful. It's such a beautiful moment. And I think especially when I was a teenage girl, this, not only was I kind of drawn to the angst and drama like a lot of teenagers are when they seek out their media, but it put you right there as a teenage girl. Like this is I felt it was so relatable, this part. It's almost like finding out you're the chosen one, but in the most horrible kind of way. So it's like the danger that's inherent with being the chosen one, which obviously was in the first episode, right? But not the full weight of it didn't really hit you. So you're like right in there in this, creepy older guy's apartment and stuck in this elevator. And I'm not going to go into it, but I thought it was really relatable and it kind of brought me right in there and all the horror crashed down on me and it was delicious.
Yeah. So this is an episode that is not as strictly inspired by the manga as certain other episodes, like certainly not the pilot or Ami's first appearance, but it is the events of the last 2 episodes are kind of pretty heavily drawn from a couple of different stories, because in the manga we get the stories that are what are their actual title. There's Memoru, Tuxedo Mask, Minako, Sailor V, and then Princess Serenity are the titles of the stories, because all the stories that kind of introduce new characters are sort of named after the characters they introduce. And these are weird ones. I've talked before about how Takeuchi's manga it's weirdly complex in a lot of places, which is one of the reasons that I prefer Codename Sailor V, because it's very much more straightforward superhero adventure. And this is something that we talked about. There are things that will come up in Sailor Moon that, because it is meant to be a saga that stretches from 1,000 years in the past to the infinite future. There's a lot that just gets brought up and kind of tossed off, like oh yeah, like maybe Queen Beryl was human, like maybe Queen Beryl was a person who discovered the Dark Kingdom, like just chilling out underneath Japan in a cave. it is a place you can walk to, it seems. But there are a couple panels, and I actually I was reading the manga last night, and I took pictures of them on my phone so I would make sure to remember. We get a little bit of Memoru's origin in this episode, and we get it in the manga. And in the manga, it is presented in a way that I think is meant to be 1,000,000% serious, but is actually hilarious. Which is Memoru's talking about how his parents died, and there's like a shot of young, like 10-year-old Memoru, and he's like, "Come on, Mom and Dad, I want to go for a drive now." And then literally the next panel is their car plummeting off a cliff.
Yeah, shouldn't be funny, but it's hilarious.
No, it's hilarious. And then there's another scene because in the manga, this whole plot involves a video store. Which, kids, let me tell you about video stores. You didn't used to be able to just watch everything in the world all the time whenever you wanted. You actually had to go to a place and give a person money.
It was like Netflix, the brick and mortar store, and you had to do it by 3 episodes at a time.
Yeah, and it was nightmarish and terrible. It was the worst possible thing in the world.
Video stores were the worst possible thing?
Like, I have a certain amount of nostalgia for video stores,
I
but
loved them when I was
let's
a
be
kid.
real here. They were terrible. They were terrible.
Compared to the accessibility, but they ended up becoming a little bit of a hangout too, because it was like you'd go hang out with other people and go through all the boxes and be like, "Oh, have you seen this? It's the best movie." So it was kind of like a little bit of a cultural center, but also sometimes the people who worked there were some of the stranger members of society. So
plus, like, I feel like I was able to, I like memorized so many movie boxes that like I only know them through the packaging now because I looked at them so many times.
I have, like I said, I have a weird, huge amount of nostalgia for video stores, but I realized a couple years ago when that became a thing because everyone who had nostalgia for video stores turned 30.
Right.
Like, I don't have nostalgia for the experience of going to the store. I have nostalgia for the box art.
Right.
So I have bought multiple books that are collections of VHS box art.
Wow.
They're great.
I didn't even know such a thing existed. Wow, that's great.
Oh, there's a great one. There's one that Fantagraphics actually put out called Portable Grindhouse that is you will remember some of them. You will definitely remember some. And I love there are great websites that you can go to that are just scans of VHS boxes.
That's
because like the advent of Photoshop ruined like cheap low budget DVD boxes. They all look like garbage now, and it's very upsetting. Like it used to be like a painting.
Yeah.
A bad painting, but a painting. Anyway, the plot in the manga involves a dark video store, which is what it says on the sign.
Wow.
And there's a scene where Naru runs into her friends, the other two girls that go to school, Rika Kelton and what was the other one's name? Yeah, in the novels.
Oh God.
Jeez, I don't remember.
Yeah,
we've said it so many times.
What were those
Yeah,
characters'
yeah.
names in those books you wrote 17 years ago?
I will find it.
They're like, "Oh, Naru, you're here at the video store too." And there's a panel of Naru kind of winking but sadly winking. And she goes, "Lately, Usagi hasn't had any time at all. So I thought I'd fill up the weekend watching videos."
Lisa Brownridge.
So I love the idea that Naru, like, because Usagi won't hang out with her, she's like, "I'm going to go rent a movie and just watch a movie alone, I guess." And she goes to dark video store.
She's feeling very dark.
Number 14. Yeah. That is number 14 for Naru.
Poor Naru. So how different is it? Like, well, was last episode different? Like, did
last episode was very different.
So it's like dress up as Sailor Moon or no?
No, there's no.
So it's
no
like dresses as a woman at some point as part of a trap, but it's just like a throwback. That whole thing, that overly complicated mission that you hated.
Yes.
in the Dark Kingdom, that was anime original.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, but we do have. Like, this is a major turning point for the series.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we do have, since day one, almost, we've been looking for the moon pudding. And now she's finally here.
Moon pudding?
We finally got, we don't get another scout for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, we get Chibiusa, but she's not really, like, she doesn't turn into Chibi Moon even for like a really long time. So this is the crew here, these five.
They call them the inner senshi, and then later they get the outer senshi.
Yeah. So we get them, and then like in this episode, we finally find out who the moon pudding is. So it is a big deal for shifting the show, and it's kind of impressive that they went this long with it in a way. Like, we've talked about all the filler episodes, because when you get right down to it, the story that is sort of being adapted here into the anime is chapters 8 and 9 of the manga, And we're in episode 34.
34.
Yeah.
So there has been a lot going on.
More than 4 episodes per act.
Yeah, like long stretches of time that we're seeing these scouts running around. But yeah, like I guess now we do not have any Twitter questions to answer this week. So if you have a question that you would like to hear us answer on the show, please send it to our Twitter account, which is @SailorBusiness.
I really don't understand why you don't think that the Sailor Scouts could be the Knights of the Round Table.
Well, there's not enough of them for one thing.
First of all, there are, because there's more than just scouts based on the moon. If you later you find out there's like way more scouts named after ridiculous things like iron mice.
Like, I don't know about that.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I know.
like stars.
So spoilers. Things are coming.
Stuff gets full on cray in season 5, yeah.
Sailor Moon is Arthur. Tuxedo Mask is Guinevere. I think probably.
So are you like gender swapping it?
Of
or are you
course,
just saying,
yes, of course.
Oh no, all the knights were girls.
No, they were. It was their essences were born into men at that point, which is why they don't turn into Sailor Scouts. They turn into knights.
I don't know if you can see it, but I am definitely frowning.
Why are you frowning so hard, so audibly?
People can hear you like frowning from the other side of the room.
And Luna is Merlin, and Artemis is somebody else.
yeah, that's a good comparison.
Artemis is
somebody else.
Yeah, like Morgan Le Fay. I don't know. No, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't work at all. Okay, forget that one. But Chibi is Mordred. That totally works.
Okay, so you're saying that in that timeline, Sailor Moon was killed by Chibiusa.
Yeah, that's why they're so aggressive towards each other now.
Chibiusa showed up and pulled up. Right.
Yeah, right.
She actually pulled that trigger.
Mordred pulls his gun.
I don't know who's Galahad. Probably Amy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think King Arthur was always like eating too much cake?
Yep, of course.
Like King Arthur was like riding off to find the Holy Grail with toast hanging out of his mouth.
Wow, that would have made it so much better.
Oh, where is the fan art? Fan art, we demand you.
Look, that is your one. King Arthur with toast hanging out of his mouth. Off to find the Holy Grail.
It's so good.
Yeah, like on a horse being like, I'm gonna be late to meeting.
Oh, and the horse should be Luna.
No, what?
That could be
black
Artemis.
horse with a. Oh, it could be Artemis.
There you go. Artemis the horse. I don't know who Molly and Melvin are. They're just friends.
Subjects.
Yeah, they're subjects.
Did King Arthur have any loser friends?
Oh, wait. I guess now that I think about it, Molly and Melvin don't have to be reborn in this cycle. Do they? They're just Sanders by.
They're always reborn as somebody inferior and targeted by the enemy. Like,
you don't think there was a Molly and Melvin on the moon?
The eternal victims? Yeah.
oh my god.
Here we are on the moon, Molly.
No, why did you just do Molly voice talking to Molly?
No, that was an Amino voice.
No, that was Molly's voice.
No, look, I can't even try to do
The important thing is the metaphor doesn't work at all.
Yeah. The important thing is that this idea is terrible and we should move on.
I like it though.
I like it a lot.
It doesn't connect in all the ways, but it's charming.
Fan art.
Yeah.
Send it in. All right. So then we should just get to the episode, right? There's going to be a lot to talk about. It's a great episode. Chris is 100,000,000% wrong.
Objectively.
Look, I am maybe my mind will change by the time we watch this episode. So this is episode 34, The Shining Silver Crystal, The Moon Princess Appears. If you would like to watch along with us, it is on Hulu. Now, again,
I know
Jordan,
why you don't like this episode. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, what? Because it's serious?
No, because she doesn't introduce herself at the beginning.
I know. It's very upsetting. How are we supposed to know what's going on with the show if we don't know Usagi's blood type and birthday?
Well, we literally get a recap instead, so we do know what's going on. If it's your first episode, you're going to be confused.
Yeah, I would say don't start with this one. Like, I apologize to anyone who started listening to Sailor Business with this episode, too.
Oh, sorry. Can I do a really quick anecdote?
Yes.
When I was in middle school and my friends were trying to get me to watch this show, I tried to watch the episode with Hercules the cat, and I turned it off 10 minutes in because I'm like, I'm not sure why it exists. It was not a good first episode when you're a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old girl. I'm just like, what is happening? Why there's so many rats? Anyway.
That is our other favorite episode of all time.
Yeah, because I recommended that people, even if they haven't watched the show, I recommended that they kind of started with that episode to see how weird it is.
If people know what anime is now, I mean, we're talking like 96 too. It was like, everybody was saying, oh, that stuff from Japan is really weird. You wouldn't like it. And then I turned that on and I was like, what's happening? Anyway, but at this point, like a friend of mine was really into it. And then this episode happened. And the following Monday, which was like the sequel to it or an episode or two after this, she had to go to club. And she told me, can you please watch the episode and then summarize it for me? Because I need to know what happens.
She didn't even have to tape it?
No, well, like we weren't really, I don't know if like we could tape, but not that well.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if I had a VCR that was connected,
Sure.
I eventually did tape them all off TV, but that took like a concerted effort. I was just a middle school kid. I was like, yeah, sure. This is kind of the old school way that you would follow a show. It's like, can you watch it and then summarize? So I turned it on and it was an episode or two after this. And I was like, all right, there's a guy named Tuxedo Mask and they love him, but he's evil or something. Sorry, slight spoilers, but like it was so complicated. And as I was describing it to her, I was like, I need to try this show again because like something serious happened. Because she had described this episode to me to give me like a little bit of, she's like, they're in an elevator and all this stuff happens or whatever. And I was like, that sounds good, but the show is really weird. And then, so this was kind of where I came in, like
nice.
The second time, the real time, but over like a school lunch table, this being described to me and then me having to watch the sequel and then follow up and then be like, okay, I need to start from the beginning because like all the shit hit the fan at once. And it was like, how are all these plot threads happening? Like, what's going on? Oh my God, so complicated. So that's probably partially also why I'm so attached to this episode.
I look forward to us getting to the first episode I ever saw because it's a really random episode and I want to watch it again going, how did this pull me in? How random is this?
I wish I remembered what my first episode was. I mean, I'm sure it's one of the ones we've watched, but I really wish I remember what I saw that made me go like, oh, I'm just going to watch this every day.
Did you guys have like social groups around this? Because like in my middle school, all the girls were into this, which is partially why I started looking it up because it was like the cool kids were watching Sailor Moon.
I mean, again, I was older, but I was in high school. I think it was my junior year of high school. I was friends with a bunch of girls who were sophomores and they started watching it first and they told me about it and I was like, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
So I checked it out.
I had just, my friends who were into anime, that we used to, go to the video store and rent one of the 4 anime movies they had,
Slayers.
I hope you like Ghost in the Shell and Appleseed.
Yeah. Yeah, this actually might have been
Slayers. Slayers was in there. But like, and then when, stuff started to come on TV, like it was weird because, I watched it on Toonami, but for some reason, like I gravitated to Sailor Moon instead of Dragon Ball Z. Which, like all of my friends were like really into Dragon Ball Z and I was like, Dragon Ball Z is boring as shit, you guys. Like this show is all about cats' buttholes.
No, you misunderstand the show, I think, is the problem.
Like, they're sent from the moon.
Well, then in like the sentiment that if you do enough push-ups, you can fly to the moon. If that doesn't appeal to you, then Dragon Ball loses something because it's basically
like that, based on everything else I like, that should have appealed to me.
I guess, yeah, superhero stories and stuff, yeah.
I don't know what it was. Like, I never...
Maybe you needed, like, the romance and the jewelry. I don't know. There's a lot of jewelry in this show.
Well, he does do a fashion report every episode.
I guess it was probably around the same time that I was watching Sailor Moon. I was also, like, Sci-Fi would show... the Sci-Fi Channel would show some anime in the mornings. So, like, I would get up at, like, 7, and then while I was brushing my teeth and getting ready for school, I would watch Ronin Warriors, which I have not watched since, but I kind of remember it being, it's a team of color-coded people fighting monsters that, in my head, and I have no idea if this is accurate, I have not watched Ronin Warriors in at least 15, 16 years. In my head, it's like, oh, it's just Sailor Moon with dudes. So I would watch like Sailor Moon, or I would watch like Ronin Warriors in the morning, go to school, and then come home just in time to watch Sailor Moon in the afternoon.
I guess they have sort of similar appeals.
Yeah, I'm curious. Maybe I should go back and see like if Ronin Warriors holds up at all.
I heard it doesn't at all. I was at a party the other day and somebody was mentioning it. They're like, wow, that show was really terrible. Don't actually watch it, but the fan fiction was amazing.
I just remember them like having those awesome like robot suits that would get periodically upgraded.
Yeah.
So maybe it's I'm all about suits that get upgraded.
Well, it's like the Sentai mentality, right? Like
very much.
If you're into that, then Sailor Moon makes more sense than Dragon Ball, which is nothing in common with Sentai.
Well, that would have been. I guess that was probably it for me because I went from really, really liking Power Rangers in middle school.
Yeah, there you go.
To really, really liking Sailor Moon in high school. And I guess that's a really easy transition to make as well.
Sure.
So
it's a little, I don't want to say necessarily it's more superhero. I don't know. Because like Dragon Ball, I think has a lot of this sort of working really hard fantasy where, guys can guys and girls, whoever identifies with it, can sort of work really hard and then become so powerful and blow holes in planets and stuff. But at the same time, there's like villain of the day, stuff that you have here, fighting crime, kind of an urban environment. there's a lot in Sailor Moon that I think appeals to a different side of superheroes. So yeah, I guess it's, it can kind of go either way. And I definitely knew that Sailor Moon was big with both genders growing up. I mean, even though it was like, there was a real cultural thing about girl groups and how everybody had to be a certain, like, okay, I'm Mars in my group, and so nobody else can be Mars. And it was complicated. There were a lot of like early proto-fandom kind of stuff that was going on in middle schools around America. At the same time, like, dudes were super into it too. So
yeah, I think with a lot of dudes, straight dudes who, cishet dudes who grew up watching Sailor Moon, it was very much like, oh, which one do you have a crush on?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I did hear that in retrespect. They were Mercury was the answer for both here and abroad. Yeah, apparently, like Mercury.
For reals.
No, Sailor Moon.
Oh yeah, and I'm saying, like, I'm sure everybody had their favorite, but Sailor Mercury, I'd bring this up with boys who'd grown up with it, and they're like, Sailor Mercury, like, get this look in their eyes. I was like, oh, so that was the one for you.
Because she had blue hair. She had blue hair.
Well, she's the cute nerd. She's a little more friendly and kind of, not necessarily friendly, but she's not like super aggressive too. But she's also not a pushover.
Like Mars is mean.
Yeah.
Mars is going to be mean to you.
But Jupiter's super nice. Like Jupiter's, and she is very romantic, like, as well.
She was really big with women. Like, women love Jupiter because she's kind of like the tough girl who feels awkward on her own skin. And I think that was something that a lot of women related to. I read a beautiful essay on, I think it might have been The Toast or Mary Sue, about basically a queer girl who found, I think she might have been like bisexual or something. And she was saying Sailor Jupiter helped her kind of come to terms with that. Growing up, there was like an episode about Jupiter and Uranus and Neptune later on, and how they're like, femininity is what you want it to be, and like sexuality is sort of separate from that. And like, there was a lot of gender and less so sexuality stuff, although that can sometimes go hand in hand, because I think the sexuality stuff got very interesting, and with the Uranus and Neptune, obviously. But yeah, like I think women really related to Jupiter because she was kind of the tomboy type that a lot of girls like, but she was uncomfortable there. Like she was really struggling with that, and I think that was something that hadn't been represented nearly as much in fiction that was marketed to them, at least in the West, girls, where you have like the tough tomboy girl, but like those moments where she's like, I wish I were prettier. Like, is it bad if I say that I wish I were prettier? And sometimes am I overcompensating by baking too much? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was very layered. So I can see why she didn't necessarily speak to boys as well as she spoke to girls. But I don't know. I've read essays about why people think so many boys were attracted to Sailor Mercury, but anyone's guess, right?
If anyone has links to all that, please send them to @Sailor Business on Twitter, because there is nothing I would rather read than people talking about the dynamics of Sailor Moon fandom. And I'm not even being sarcastic.
Well, okay, there's a book coming out called Global Manga something, and I wrote the opening chapter about Sailor Moon and kind of the awesome. Western. Yeah, it's under my real name, not Leon Centaur, but it's kind of like, it's a manga. It's an academic book about manga outside of Japan. So I wrote about sort of the wave of comic creators in the West and who were raised on sort of Sailor Moon, and it had a whole section in there about Sailor Moon social dynamics and stuff. So I had to actually do some research. That's why I have this kind of fresh in my mind. This was fairly recent, so
that's great.
I guess you can read that. It's not out yet, but I guess I can send you a link when it's out.
Sure, yeah, we'd love to.
Yeah.
Oh, please do. And look, that's why you're here. Plug stuff. All right, so just since they didn't do it on the show, our heroine is Usagi Tsukino. She's 14 years old. She's a Cancer. Her blood type is O. She's also Sailor Moon. She has 4 allies. There's Ami Mizuno, the kind-hearted girl genius who is also Sailor Mercury. There's Rei Hino. She's a shrine maiden. She's a hot-headed psychic. She's also Sailor Mars. There's Makoto Kino. She's a transfer student. She can't fit into the regular school uniform, so she has to wear her old uniform. She's Sailor Jupiter. Now there's the new ally, Minako Aino.
No, spoiler, just Sailor Venus.
She's Minako Aino. We're going to find out. She is also known as Sailor V, who has been a superhero since she was 13 in a manga that ran parallel to Sailor Moon and preceded Sailor Moon by a little bit. She has been fighting the Dark Kingdom on her own as a solo heroine with a cat named Artemis for a long time. She has just joined the team as Sailor Venus. So that brings you up to speed. Oh, wait, no, there's also Tuxedo Mask. He's Emperor Chiba. He got stabbed. There's also the Dark Kingdom.
He's slowly bleeding out.
And Kunzite. They're in love, ? And there's Queen Beryl. Okay, let's talk about this episode.
Okay. Again, the episode, not only is there spoilers in the title, it literally, the preview of the episode starts with Sailor Moon going, oh man, I can't believe Darian's Tuxedo Mask. That's crazy. And it's like, what? Wait, that happens in this episode. Don't tell us that yet.
Yeah, those are really bad. Like, they spoiled the crap out of everything. Like, you had to skip over that part. It's like, sometimes there's certain arcs on TV where it's like, don't watch the commercials. Don't watch the commercials. I think there's way more respect for spoilers now.
For sure.
So we open with with the opposite of what happens in the manga, which in the manga, Sailor Moon goes, "Oh my god, you're Sailor V," and Artemis goes, "She's the Moon Princess. Shut up." You show some respect. You treat her with respect. This is the Moon Princess. Everyone needs to respect the Moon Princess at all times. Something that everyone forgets like 5 pages later for obvious reasons. In the anime, Sailor Moon, Bunny Moon, goes, who wields the moonstick. Yes. And is the only one who can use the moonstick. And
seems to have a slot for a crystal that's mysteriously empty.
She says to Sailor Venus, "Are you the Moon Princess?" And Sailor Venus goes, "No, I'm just one of the Sailor Guardians." But I hear that the Moon Princess, much like me, also has super long blonde hair.
Wink, and wink. They all join hands. And they start to Sailor teleport. No, they don't. But that's later.
But I really like Usagi's reaction in this because she's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe like this superhero that I know about is actually like standing in front of me."
That's so charming.
Yeah, like joining my team. This is so great.
My team.
Like, yeah, it's like the Ms. Marvel effect, where it's like, "Oh my god, like look at all these superheroes. Like you're a superhero, sweetheart," and she's like, but not like them. So great.
So then Artemis gets real serious and goes, "Okay, guys, yeah, we got it. We don't have time for this. I guess because it's bedtime. I don't know. I don't know what business they need to leave for immediately."
Well, it was the middle of the day in the last episode, and now it is just nighttime.
And so he's like, "We got to go. We'll meet you tomorrow. We'll talk to you then. Bye."
Like,
and
maybe
then
he could go to the bathroom.
He's got to go. Yeah, I got a litter box with my name on it. And then Sailor Venus jumps over a story high. She jumps from the ground to the roof of a nearby building and runs off. And they are all like, "Geez, that was rude."
Which again, I don't think the Scouts have superpowers like that.
They don't.
Flew a few episodes ago.
They did fly a few episodes ago, and it was totally bonkers. And here again, they just have super jump for like 1 second.
All right. So back at the Dark Kingdom, Zoisite and Kunzite are like, "Hey, Queen Beryl, why did you call us back? Like we were just about to kill Tuxedo Mask and get the rainbow crystals." And Queen Beryl's like, "Y'all need to shut up. Do you not see that I am actually standing up right now?" Like, that is how important this is. I have been sitting down for 34 episodes. I am on my feet. So Queen Beryl starts talking about the Great Ruler, which again is Queen Metalia, who is actually the real power behind the Dark Kingdom. There's a queen, and then there's like a super queen.
I guess so.
Yeah, I thought Metalia was kind of like the essence with no form of evil. Like the Satan, basically.
Yeah,
it's so weird. It makes no sense, and I don't understand why we need it.
Well, unless Beryl was a normal person who was who was like an empty vessel that was susceptible to evil, and then Metalia uses her like a puppet. That's kind of how I interpreted it. But
I think that's the only way you can.
Yeah, well, she kind of.
It's not good.
No, I mean, I'm getting my stuff mixed up with like the Deke version. Like, in the actual finale of this season, she's there's power flowing, and it almost looks like Beryl is possessed and blah, blah, blah. So
I know. I guess I just don't understand what you get from that you wouldn't just get if it was like Queen Beryl's the queen.
Yeah.
And she rules, and then that's when they finally fight her. I mean, you know what I mean? We don't fight her until then. It's not like they defeat Beryl and then she goes, "But wait, there's another person."
Yeah, like it's thematic, like structurally, Beryl and Metalia just performed the same role.
Right.
It's not like I said, Beryl's been sitting down for 34 episodes. She never it's not like this show needs someone to be behind Queen Beryl so that Beryl is ultimately disposable, like the generals are, because the generals are there. So it's really weird that there is something behind Beryl that is also referred to by the same title. Like that's the weirdest thing for me, because if it's just like if Beryl was like, "Yeah, there is an evil force I want to unleash on the earth," that's fine. But if it's, "Oh yeah, there's like another me."
Or even if she was like, "We need this in order to unleash, like, to give me the power that I need." You know what I mean? Like that Beryl's like, "Right now I'm not at my top power, but once you get me the crystal, it will, I can tap into the forces of blah, 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 blah." Like, why make it a character or a person with a name or a thing with a name? I don't know. It was weird. It's just a weird thing.
Right. So Beryl tells Zoisite and Kunzite that their great ruler gave the order to cut off, to disengage with a Tuxedo Mask. and says, hey, don't kill Tuxedo Mask.
So again, now if we go back to last episode, so what happens here is, what apparently happened was, she's watching on the crystal ball, she recognizes, the Tuxedo mask comes off, she recognizes Tuxedo Mask from thousands of years ago, goes to her master and goes, Master, I recognize this guy, that's this Endymion dude. And the master goes, the master goes, oh, we can work with this. Find him. And then apparently, now this is the part that I don't get still, the part that is still remains unconnected, because what we're going to see is from his identity on the moon thousands of years ago, they're going to find his apartment.
Yeah.
And I want to know
that one's a bit of a stretch.
how that exactly goes down. Yeah, I don't know.
Look, he's renting it under the name and Prince Endymion of the Moon.
right.
Of Silver Millennium. And it's all scratched out, and like Darien Shield. Memory Chiba is written to that, and that's scratched out, and then Darien Shields is written under that. So speaking of, we go to Memory's apartment.
Are you watching
where he is
it right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
What's with his door handle? It goes the wrong direction.
Huge.
It goes past the door frame.
Huge.
Okay, sorry. That was just distracting. Very weird.
He's trying to keep bad guys out, I guess. But
By putting a giant handle? That makes it easier.
there's more for them to reach. Yeah, it doesn't really look like a double lock. It looks like just bad design.
So he's freaking out. Why didn't he go to the hospital? Like,
Look, you know that in hospitals in Tokyo, they have to report any crystal stabbings to the police.
Again, there's no reason. He should totally go. Or go visit Andrew at least and be like, Andrew, patch me up.
Well, in that case, I think it's pretty clear that he literally just got home.
Yeah, but I'm saying, why go home?
Like, what am I doing? Well, I mean, he probably doesn't want bad guys to follow into Andrew's apartment, but maybe that's how they found out who he is. Maybe they followed him home.
They followed the blood trail.
Yeah, and he should have gone to the hospital. Well, then the hospital.
Yeah, he was stabbed. He was stabbed in the back by a giant crystal. Like, not even it's not even
it's become a recurring theme.
Not as big as the one he will be stabbed by.
Like
twice.
Knives,
another one later in the season.
Knives are at least thin, you know?
Right. No, you're right.
Like, he stabbed, like, it's a giant round thing.
It's going to be a gaping wound. It's going to be a big wound.
Like, he at least has, and it goes in deep and then turns to acid. So, like, Darien is fucked. He should go to the hospital.
But he's good at putting on a brave face, because then somehow, again, Zoisite, full of new powers, like finding guys based on their identities thousands of years ago and tapping into their televisions, is able to come on his screen and go, hey, Mamoru-chan.
And see through the TV.
Oh, totally. This is I thought, the flirtiest scene, because I feel Zoisite is super flirting with him. I mean,
he's like
and wants to kill him.
Hair.
Right, playing with the hair. And I, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he calls him Mamoru-chan the whole time.
Yeah, I think he does. Yeah.
And he's like, well, here's the deal. I've got crystals. You've got crystals. We know who you are now. Why don't we just fight like to the death, probably, and whoever wins gets the crystals. And he's like, all right.
Oh God, watching this, while he's playing with his hair, he's like flicking his middle finger. Sorry. Amazing.
Yeah. It is.
God, I would have loved to write this part, but as like an adult, I like to write.
So, but you would have had to write her as a woman at that point.
Yeah, at that point, I would have had to.
The time is right for Sailor Moon Book 9.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. Like,
talk to
the unauthorized.
Talk to Kodansha. Maybe they'll do it.
We are in the middle of the Renaissance.
That's true. It is the return of Sailor Moon. Okay, so but the point is, Tuxedo Mask is just like, yeah.
Also, Zoisite sniffs his hair at one point.
Yeah,
which is pretty great.
And Darien's like, yeah, I'll fight you. And Zoisite's like, you're like bleeding out your shoulder, right? Like, yeah, what of it? All right, meet me at the what is it? The Starlight Tower.
Starlight Tower. So they're gonna go meet Jem.
This is a fake tower, right? This doesn't exist, right?
I would assume.
I assume it's fake because it turns into an evil palace later. But you never know.
You mean does it exist in Tokyo?
In real life, yeah. It's not a real life building, right?
I don't think so. It doesn't, like, the architecture looks really strange, so I doubt it.
It's a Dark Kingdom plot. When
you see it, it looks like it is from space.
Jedi at one point was like, people get excited about really tall buildings, and he set it up and they let it build by accident.
Amazing.
Use all this building energy.
So So yeah, there's this giant
bunch of construction
tower.
workers who are like, "Hey, what happened to Mr.
Maxfield
Jedi?
Stanton.
Oh, Maxfield Stanton was funding
funded
it.
it.
Sure, of
Put
course.
some money up for this."
So we find out Usagi got detention, and so she's late for the Sailor Scout meeting, and she's running. Okay, I love this scene so much.
So good.
Okay, so she's running home. She imagines Ray scolding her because that's still going to happen. You see Darien shambling along. Again, I don't know where he's going to the tower. So he's limping feebly his way to the Starlight Tower. Usagi sneaks up on him mischievously and slaps him on the back really hard.
Right in the wound.
Right in the wound.
Which is that is 100% a thing that will happen. Like it has happened to me, like on both sides of it, where like someone will come back and it's like, I am not a person who like, greets my friends by clapping them on the shoulder. But like inevitably, every time I have done it in my life, somebody's been like, I just got back from the beach and I have a really bad sunburn.
Yep, exactly.
I don't know what it is, but that is a completely realistic thing for Usagi to just like bash him on the back with her book.
And I definitely got clapped on the arm the day after I got all my immunizations like a couple weeks ago. It was terrible. Hey, how you doing? Oh God,
good to see you, buddy. From people who never do that.
But Chris, this is why I love this scene, because here's what happens. Usagi comes up and is giving him a hard time, and Mamoru turns around and is like, "Oh, hey, you're so cheerful," and she's just like, "Yeah, I'm cheerful. Screw you, asshole." Because she's ready for it, and he's like, "Yeah, just stay cheerful. Keep that." Keep that joy in your life.
I hope you're always cheerful.
And this is why I like the scene, because again, this is where you find out for certain, Chris, that she is into it. That she actually likes their playful relationship, even though you have believed all this time that she has just been horribly abused by this man. Because she's like, what? Why aren't you saying mean things to me? Like something's wrong.
I think it's not. I don't think that she likes it. I think she's just surprised.
I think she enjoys it, because again, I think that's why she's armed for it. She doesn't say
Stockholm syndrome is a perfectly valid third reasoning. I'm just going to put it in there. I don't think it is.
She sees him and she goes, I'm going to go up.
I want you to listen to what you're saying. Like, yeah, she was ready for him to be a jerk because he's been a jerk.
No,
that's why.
hold on.
That means she likes it when
hold
he's
on.
a jerk.
She initiates. She doesn't see him and go, oh, there's that jerk who's always mean to me. I'm going to sneak around the other way. She goes up and like initiates the confrontation. And she's like, hey, you, because she likes their playful banter. And when he doesn't, and she's literally sticking her tongue out and doing the thing where you pull your eye down, which I don't really understand, and is like, I think, disappointed that he's not fighting back and that he's instead being nice, and is like, I don't understand. Something's wrong with him. And that's why she pursues him, because she's concerned about him. Also, the fact she's got blood on her hands.
Yeah. Also, she hit him on the shoulder once and her hand is covered in blood. Like, which she somehow didn't notice, like, seeping through his... That has been seeping through his coat. It is now afternoon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, he got stabbed at night the previous day.
He's just been bleeding for 12 hours. Yeah.
Like, for more than 12 hours. For like 18.
Yeah, you're right.
No, anyway, you're wrong.
No, I think she's totally, because
wrong.
That's why, no, I think she enjoys their repartee.
Well, look, there are people that I have, there are people that like kind of, throw some jabs at me that I used to work with. But I don't want to see those people get stabbed.
Yeah, but if... Yeah, No. I think she literally enjoys it, and she likes getting worked up and angry by him, and so the fact that she went into this going, oh, here we go, I'm going to fight with this guy, even though I'm late for a meeting that I'm already worried I'm going to get yelled at because I'm late. I'm going to go and have a little fight with this guy because that's going to be fun. And then he doesn't fight back, and she's like, something's wrong. And then again, because she's super nice, she goes, I'm going to go after him.
That is ridiculous, and you are ridiculous.
Leon, back me up. Come on.
Yeah, no, I loved them as a couple. I mean, like some of the early episodes, he is really weirdly mean to like this little girl,
yes.
But like at no point did it feel like she didn't have any power in this relationship. Like she gave as good as she got. The onus is really on him. Why are you picking on this middle school girl when you're in college? But yeah, I think I think she would have missed it if it were gone, or at least she'd miss him if he were gone. Maybe she would have preferred him being nicer, because the rest of the seasons they're like, he's not mean to her. They make out a lot. But well, he gives her rides places, which I also think was like really brilliant that they showed that in the anime. He like shows up in a car. He's like, "Do you want me to give you a ride home?" She's like, "Oh, this is why I'm dating you." The best. Yeah, all right. Here are my friends. So like 8 of them get in the back. They're like, that your boyfriend? It's like, yeah. It's not weird. He's got a car. They're like, you're right. It's not weird. He's got a car.
So she follows him and surprises him.
Also,
yeah.
if someone is a jerk to you all the time,
Yes.
to the point of calling you trash, like literally saying on the street in front of other people, you are garbage and only garbage will love you.
What does that say about you, dude?
And then you see that person and you're like, hey, what's up, motherfucker? How are you doing? And he's like, I hope you stay happy. Like, and then bleeds on you. Like, yeah, you're probably going to be a little concerned. Like, just because you're a human being.
Yeah, but no. I think, again, I still think this reveals a side of it that we didn't see before. It's classic Beatrice and Benedict. They totally like each other.
That was really big in the 90s, too. That, like, the antagonistic relationship, it had a little bit of sort of danger to it, you know, without actually being that dangerous, except for this guy picking up middle schoolers in his car later on. But, you know, at that point, she's like, well, I know we're going to have a baby in Crystal Tokyo. So, like,
yeah, this guy with mysterious stab wounds.
Yeah. Keep in mind also that, like, this is kind of where their actual romantic relationship begins. Like, that's like them fighting is how they met. But, like, at this point on, there's no more fighting. Like, they don't bicker at all. Like, he occasionally makes fun of her because he's kind of a dick. But, like,
yeah, he still calls her Bunhead, right?
Yes, he does. But I mean, like, all her friends are constantly making fun of her. She can clearly take it because they're like, oh my God, would you stop? Like, could you stop shoving a grape, like, in both hands and putting it in your mouth while I'm talking about something serious? Like, he definitely has this talk with her once or twice where, like, you can see in the later seasons, he sort of gives up. He's like, I'll just wait till you're done chewing.
Also, I feel like this is another function of the fact that, you know, this is chapter 9 of the manga and chapter 34 of the anime. Yeah. So, like, when they have their connection in the manga, there's a lot less antagonistic history. Now, I will say, I do prefer the way that the anime handles it, because the way that it happens in the manga is that the video store is like, it's like The Ring. It's, you know, everybody who watches this video gets their energy sucked up. And so Sailor Moon has to basically moon heal everybody at once. And, like, she uses too much energy and she passes out. And then she just wakes up in his apartment where he's taken off his tuxedo.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I like it better when he has a mysterious stab wound that he will not explain to her. Because it's somehow less creepy.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is way more, like epic and climactic. You know what I mean? Like, the manga didn't have a lot of those moments that were sort of like, now we're setting the scene for the big action scene in, like, an action movie, you know? Like, it had these giant moments, but they were more, like, emotional or, like, ethereal. Whereas this was building kind of like, now we have the sun is setting and we have to go into this tower and it's, like, stuck in the elevator. You know, like, it was way more cinematic, which is great. And I think that's also, why this is so much better. And also you have to look at, like, the intent of the manga. The manga was not supposed to be some big action series or whatever, but clearly the show was more Sentai style. And
so like I said, she follows him. She surprises him, and he almost punches her in the face.
Karate chops at her.
Right,
yeah.
Spins around with a karate chop because her hand comes out of pitch blackness.
That is true. Well, because he's lurking in a dark alleyway. Anyway,
well, he knows that the Dark Kingdom knows who he is.
That's true. So she surprises him, and he's like, "What do you want?" And she's like, "I'm worried about you. You're bleeding to death. If you keep, you know, walking around, you're not gonna get better." And he's like, "It's none of your business if I get better."
You're worried about me? And she's like, "Yeah, you have a giant blood stain through 3 layers of clothing."
Yeah, you're bleeding a lot.
You're fucked, Darian. You're fucked.
And he's like, "It's none of your business. Leave me alone." And he leaves her again. And she's like, "I'm coming after you anyway." Then something really, I think, bizarre happens because, so he's walking towards the tower, but you can see the tower in the distance, like a zillion blocks away. Like, he's not at the front door. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's a while away from it. And then Zoisite goes, "Oh, I see you've come," and teleports him away. And it's like, wait, what? He's not anywhere near the place you told him to go.
He's like
Zoisite was impatient. Away. Yeah, like, it's like, I know that's you, and you're slow because I stabbed you. So
yeah, like, why you
let's get this
stop
moving.
limping over here? Let's go. Fortunately, Usagi has still been following him, and he's like, "Get away!" And she's like, "No!" And they both get teleported into the Starlight Tower. He calls her an idiot. Idiot.
Well, I'd be kind of upset too, where it's like, oh great, now you're gonna die, and it's gonna be on me. This middle school girl that I called a pile of garbage is now gonna be murdered by the Dark Kingdom. That's a bit much even for me.
Yeah, that is a bit much. You're right. Meanwhile, go ahead.
Back at the shrine, everybody's like, "Oh, where's Usagi?" Like, this is ridiculously late, even for her. And then Minako shows up.
I'm sure that the listeners have already heard this because I can't believe it won't be the clip at the beginning of the episode. But Ray says in the dub, "That Serena's not a Sailor Scout. She's a failure scout."
Had to be said at some point.
Oh my god, that is my fave.
Pretty good.
That's my new fave.
I would recommend everyone the Sailor Failures Tumblr is a thing, and it's like the most amazing Sailor Moon Tumblr. I might have mentioned it last time I was here, but
Yeah, I actually found it recently. It's pretty great.
that's amazing.
Oh, so she's not a Sailor Scout. She's a failure scout. Oh, God. So then Minako shows up as Minako, not as Sailor Venus. And
They don't recognize
they
her.
only know who she is because she's with a talking cat. Which they don't go, okay, well, we know two girls with 12 feet of blonde hair, and Usagi's clearly not here.
No, they literally are like, "Who are you?" Because she like you're just some stranger barging in on our private meeting. And Artemis like, "Come on, tell me you recognize us." Trying to be all smooth, and they're like, "Artemis," but it's again, it's got to be. It's just they have to have magic. It's got to be that they just have magic that you cannot recognize them no matter what.
I think this actually did a good job of showing that. That it's like they just met her and she looked just like that, and they were like, "Who are you?" Like, I think they need to do that sometimes for the audience to be like, "No, in this world, people don't recognize them. There's magic or something." They basically have perpetual censor all over their face. You know,
Can we talk about how Luna is a complete dick in this scene?
Please.
Yeah.
Like they say, like, "Oh, Usagi went to go fight the Dark Kingdom at the Starlight Tower," because apparently now everybody just knows the Starlight Tower is a Dark Kingdom thing. Like,
suddenly,
yeah, I guess maybe that's what Venus being there means that you can have a lot of information and just write it off as being like, "Oh, that's something Venus was working on off screen."
Well, yeah, they were. They were supposedly doing an investigation of some sort, which I don't know what that entails because we will never see her do an investigation again from our point of view, really. But when she's not around, she can do them quite easily.
Yeah, and so she's like, and so Ray goes, "Oh, well, Usagi, might have gone to the Starlight Tower alone to fight the Dark Kingdom." And Luna goes, "If she was that kind of girl, I wouldn't have to work so hard." It's like Jesus, Luna.
it's really poorly timed. Yeah, they're like, she could be dead already. And she's like, well, maybe that means she did something good for once in her life. Proactive for once in her life.
Usagi, never running from a real fight? That doesn't sound like her. So, in the Starlight Tower, which is very unfurnished, it's, get some desks and chairs in there at least.
They just built it. They just finished it. They haven't leased any of the property yet.
Zoisite puts all of his rainbow crystals down, and then Memoru puts his rainbow crystals down. So we have all 7 rainbow crystals in the same place at the same time.
And then Zoisite laughs at him for 10 minutes.
Okay, keep in mind, this is situation number 1 where Zoisite says, "Do this thing and I will do this thing." This is the first time that he tells Tuxedo Mask, "Trust me, here's what we're going to do." Okay, because I want to bring that up later.
Yep. Yeah, but then, like I said, he laughs for like 10 years. About, "Oh, what are you laughing at?" "I'm just laughing at how dumb you are." That's not suspicious. "What do you mean?" "Well, I mean this." And then finally Malachite shows up, or Kunzite shows up, and steals all the crystals.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you, we can teleport like you have seen us do on multiple occasions."
And then
also they make everything around them float to them. Like, there's no reason to believe that putting it in the middle of a room and walking backwards was any kind of protection.
But again, it's not like he tries. He never makes a move. He doesn't run towards Kunzite and go, "Give me those." He just stands there and is like, "That was lame. You shouldn't have done that. That's not fair."
He's like, "You gave me your word."
He pulls out a rose after Malachite has literally made the crystals disappear. They are gone at this point.
He does go to move, and Zoisite says, "Oh, if you do anything, I'm going to kill that girl that you're with."
Yeah, that's true.
And what was he planning on doing if like they didn't know Usagi was going to be there?
That's a good question.
I guess they also, why don't they just kill Memoru at this point? Well,
they can't.
I know why they can't. They're
not allowed to.
Okay.
Here is the first bit of evidence that Kunzite does not give a fuck about Zoisite, because He throws a rose at Kunzite, and Kunzite just goes, I'm out, and just teleports away, leaving the rose to slash right through into Zoisite's face, which makes him very, very upset. Meanwhile, Usagi wakes up and is like, and sees all this going down and is like, why is Darien fighting Zoisite? Why does Darien want crystals? That's weird. She can't figure it out yet.
Why does Darien want this thing that Tuxedo Mask told me he wanted?
Yeah, that's
weird. Why is Darien fighting all these guys that look... Bruce Wayne, why are you dressed like that?
Exactly. Another good, this is another case where I go, why didn't he transform? He's literally fighting bad guys already. Transform into Tuxedo Mask. What are you doing? She was unconscious. Like, he could have done it then.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He blew it. And then, Zoisite teleports away and goes, like, something like, get ready for a taste of fear. And that translates to giant crystal stalactites.
It's ice?
I thought it was ice too.
Darien?
I thought it was ice too, but then mostly Zoisite uses crystals. So that's why I switched to crystals at the last second.
Yes.
And then the other thing is...
Also, it seems like he could very easily die in this room.
Oh, very easily. Well, except for two things. Well, first of all, I wanted to mention, for some reason, this floor of the building is built over a giant chasm. Like, there are no floors beneath this floor of the building, apparently, because the...
Hey, are we supposed to build a chasm here? That's
you wanted a chasm,
Mr.
right?
Stanton said.
Like the floor will fall away and just be like a giant bottomless pit. And also the floor is like made out of like stone. Like anyway,
this should be like a short comic where it's like the architect who's like taking the notes and he's like, well, if you're sure this is what you want, and like the guy's building it and stuff, and like they lose a few workers in that chasm and they're like, look, like we could sue you for like it's just not safe, and they're like, do it, and like vaporize. Yeah.
But regarding
all this lawsuit energy is going to fuel Queen Beryl.
But regarding whether he will die here, you're right, he could, but I think, again, what we're about to find out is this is all yet another ploy to get them into an elevator. This is the second episode we've seen where they have an elaborate, dangerous plan to get them into an elevator.
Guess what happens when the elevator reaches the top? Oh my god, that was the last episode I was on with you guys.
Yes. You were on the other elevator episode, absolutely.
So they go into the elevator. Outside, the scouts show up at this bizarre crystal monolith, and Amy literally says, "It just looks like any other building." No,
it does
looks
not.
like one of those 100-story tuning forks from Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's clearly not a regular building.
Not remotely.
Also, the elevator is made of roots and crystals.
Well, yes, that is the weird thing. At that point, like, yeah, the elevator itself is super spooky and creepy, but it still doesn't look that way to anybody on the outside. On the outside, it just looks normal. Well, again, it doesn't look normal, but it doesn't look like biological in nature, which it will soon.
Guys, I got some bad news. Looks like Usagi and Mamoru are trapped in Metroid.
But like, can you imagine this again? I'm sorry, this architect who's like, he's had a long day and he's like watching the news, and like the crystal or the Starlight Tower exploded in some sort of like fiery villain battle, and he's like, not really sure what I was expecting.
Oh wait.
He's like, I half thought in the back of my mind that I was basically setting up a villain lair. The important thing is I got paid and I got to move on with my life and can take like better projects. Like I have to be a more discriminating freelancer.
I'm sorry. I apologize, Chris, because I just actually saw the scene where she sees them, and you're right. They are in the creepiest elevator in the world, and she's just like, they're in the elevator, the fucking demon death elevator, but she doesn't mention that part.
Yeah, like the walls are pulsing. Like this is clearly made from flesh. Outside, Amy is looking through her computer goggles, and she's like, "Oh, the doors are sealed." And Jupiter's like, "Well, I can shoot lightning, so they are no longer sealed."
It's awesome. It's great.
Yeah.
She does Supreme Thunder, and all the other scouts are super impressed because it blows the shit out of the doors.
There is an amazing reaction shot of Mars, Mercury, Venus, and the two cats, where everybody just looks like a Peanuts character because they're so shocked that Jupiter was like, "Yeah, that's how you open a door, guys."
It is awesome.
Sometimes you have to blow shit up.
So Kunzite and Zoisite are snuggling on the roof.
Well, they are, except that Kunzite is touching the bare minimum of Zoisite. He is kind of holding his hair, sort of. He's kind of holding, like lightly holding Zoisite's ponytail with his other arm straight at his side.
So then we cut back to the elevator, and this is where we get the exciting origin of Mamoru Chiba, which is, I'll be honest with you, a little weird. So the story is, when he was 6 years old,
He wanted to go on a car ride, and then the very next thing that happened was his parents drove off a cliff.
Yes. Well, I mean, we don't get the him wanting to go on a car, so it's not his fault in this version of it. But we see the car go off a cliff, and it's a fucking epic car going off a cliff shot.
It's actually really beautiful.
It's amazing. And both parents die, and Mamoru lives, but has complete amnesia. And that's it. He has complete amnesia, and I guess goes to like an orphanage and stuff. And this is weird.
He goes to his own apartment at the age of 6.
Well, this is what's weird about it to me. He goes, I'm trying to get my memories back, and then we get this origin story where we find out he became an amnesiac at 6. I barely remember anything from before I was fucking 6. What amazing quest does he need to go on to remember?
This is like Tiger and Bunny had the same problem where he's like, my parents were murdered when I was 4 and I can't get over it. It's like, you remember your parent? Like, how much do you remember from before the age of 4?
Right. It's like, what does he expect to find from before he was? I mean, again, I guess memories of his parents, which would be nice.
Yeah, I think that's like his only memories of his parents would have been before he lost his memory. So he just wants to remember his parents. They don't say that.
No,
though,
they never say that.
Yeah.
Which you'd think would be like the easiest thing to say to kind of give him, like kind of clarify his motivation. Because, yeah, like right now it's like, I don't remember. Do I like Fruity Pebbles or Cocoa Pebbles?
Well, okay, to be fair,
I can only
Japanese,
find out.
Like, in the Japanese version, he does say, who am I? Is the first thing that he wakes up. And I think that's a sympathetic thought. Where it's like,
if you're 6.
Right. Exactly. For 6-year-old Mamoru, that is a dreaded, terrible thing. And of course, he'll want to remember who he is. It's been, 12 years minimum? And I think he's probably developed an identity by then. Maybe not. Maybe he expects he'll get this and be like, oh, cool. Now I'm going to buy some action figures. Like, I don't.
I think he would not have cared as, I'm going to be a Mamoru defender here. I don't think he wouldn't have cared as much, except that he's having this recurring dream of something he has to find.
Right. So, that's the thing. But now we're talking about his moon memories.
Right. So it's getting all mixed up. So now in this life, he's obsessed with remembering things. And I think that kind of ties into the fact that he doesn't know he's actually trying to remember a past life, but there's like this current structure where it's like, oh, I must be trying to remember something from my life. And then, of course, when he finds out the truth, he's like, whoa, fuck my life before I was 6. That really wasn't.
Exactly. That becomes completely unimportant. Oh, speaking of which, his memory of the Moon Princess.
It's a really interesting thing that I don't think it's, at the very least, like, it's not stated well, but there is a lot of interesting stuff about, like, kind of Mamoru trying to recover these memories and having this, these visions of Princess Serenity, and not having the advantage that Usagi has of having Luna, because, Luna and Artemis are there to kind of explain things. Like, Luna's there to go like, hey, BT dubs, I am from the moon, from 1,000 years ago, where there was a moon kingdom, and we're looking for a moon princess. Like, no talking animals walked up to Mamoru and were like, hey, you are a reborn person from the moon. Like, he does not know that.
Yeah. Well, and then beyond that, it's like he doesn't even remember his life before he was 6. So it's like a combination of, I don't have my regular human memories, plus I don't have anybody else explaining these dreams. And to fast forward very briefly to Sailor Moon R, the next season, this is not the first or only time that somebody's going to go to his dreams and mess with him. His future self does the exact same thing to him when he finally gets over these dreams of the Moon Princess and finds out what's going on, and he's like living a normal life. Now he's getting different dreams that are telling him stop loving Sailor Moon, which is a whole separate thing. But like, this guy's plagued with like really soft focus nightmares, like can't just let this guy live his life. There's always some voice in his head telling him like, yes, no. So, it could be kind of nuts at this point, but anyway.
So
I think a lot of our problem with it could have been like if he was 12 or if he was 15.
He
lost his memories.
Absolutely. Then you'd understand much more about why he's determined to remember it. It's just that's 6. Like the number of things I remember from before I was 6 is pretty low. So his vision of the Moon Princess. What's that she's looking at?
Yeah,
because it looks like the moon. Unless there's a giant mirror in space, the kingdom on the moon should not have a moon.
Oh, yeah. No, I see what you're saying. Sorry, I didn't get that for a second.
Yeah.
You don't think the moon is in the sky as of the moon?
No, I do not. I do not think that it is.
Obviously, that's the sun, and it's like halfway through an eclipse.
Okay, so that's the Earth going in front of the sun.
Earth going in front of the sun.
This is a dream dropping some subtle imagery, saying like "P.S. Moon."
Okay. Okay, because and this is not the only time when you watch the opening, I think there's a clip of, or it's either the opening or the closing. There definitely is another part where I saw like images of the Moon Kingdom where I was like, "There's a moon in the sky. What is that supposed to represent?"
Yeah.
You're right. Maybe it's just symbolism.
Well, you mentioned that really beautiful bit of animation of the car going over a cliff,
Yes.
which is like just weirdly beautifully animated. They have a very prominent crescent moon in that shot too. So there's a lot of this kind of imagery. Again, moon, Sailor Moon, Moon Princess, Moon. Moon is always there. Moon is always watching. You'd think somebody'd make some kind of a connection before this.
You would think.
So up they go in the elevator. Darian's like, or Memora's like, "Hey, I don't know why I'm telling you this incredibly personal stuff about my life. It's weird." And she's like, "Yeah, I used to think you were the worst person in the world, but now you're number 2.
Second worst person in the world.
Which is pretty great.
Yes, that's them flirting.
Yeah, it's
And
cute.
then she has a vision of him as Tuxedo Mask and blushes and goes, "Oh, how can this be?"
Sorry, Hitler. You're back. You're back in last place.
You're back in last place. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's hilarious.
There's your title for this episode. Sorry, Hitler. You're back in last place.
So wait, okay.
She
So what
hates him
goes on
worse
here?
than Queen Beryl.
Does Kunzite like drains the power out of the entire town? Like what's that all about? I don't quite know.
Yeah.
They just kind of threw that in there. And then, another part I love, we find out the scouts are taking the stairs, which is sensible because the elevator is dangerous, but it's like a million stories.
Look, somebody saw Ghostbusters.
Oh, God. They are not winded when they show up. They are just like, well, because I guess
They've been eating right
they eat
as
right.
per last episode.
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, man, it's kind of amazing. Yeah, they run a zillion flights up the stairs. And yeah, speaking of Ghostbusters, yeah, we get the weird thing of like energy and spooky things flying towards the building, and the building transforms from a crystal place into a spooky, gross place.
Yeah, Dark Kingdom-esque structure.
Yep.
I like that Zoisite does this awesome, like Zoisite shows up and he does this awesome thing where he's like holding up his hands and there's like a little spark that jumps from one hand and then it does it again and then it does it again and there's like a whole arc of fire. But and it looks really cool when it like takes it a minute to get started because it like builds suspense and like it's like he's showing them what's about to happen. But also it's very much a Job Bluth sort of situation. Where it's like
and it finally works.
So like
But where'd the lighter fluid come from?
If anyone wants to set that to the final countdown and put that on YouTube, please, at Sailor Business, let us know. Zoisite shoots out an amazing amount of fire. It's like, if Zoisite could do this,
right?
Why has this not happened before? Because it's awesome.
Super awesome.
Super, like, I will say, the animation in this episode is
gorgeous.
Really, really great. Like, for it being, the very dramatic and action heavy episode, like, there's the animation that I tend to like in the show is more comedically themed. It's the stuff that, we've seen in the Rhett Butler episode and the even the animating episode, the animation studio episode. But like, this stuff is like super, super dramatic and super, super action heavy. And it's like really good. Like, it's really, really great.
They have this, they do this effect on Usagi where she turns all like red and like, just it's really well rendered for when she's like thinking about what she should do because she's like, the fire is traveling down the elevator shaft towards them, taking its sweet time. Either that or again, they really are like a million stories from the top. And she's like, well, if I transform, Darian will know I'm Sailor Moon, but if I don't, we're gonna die. So I gotta do it. And so she does it, which is a great dramatic scene, even though
and it's the most it is the most dramatic transformation that she's ever done too. Like, she goes like, there's like dramatic wind blowing, there's fire raining down on her, there's dramatic lighting. It's like, it is the transformation sequence.
And they show her face getting redder and redder. Like, so it's this big, like, you know, epic shot, and it's like cool camera angle, and she's doing this big thing, and you can just see the blush on her face grow really, because he's staring right at her. She gets this, like, her face gets all red when it happens, because she's also kind of embarrassed.
The shots
Such
of
a beautiful
him,
juxtaposition.
the shots of him watching her transform are too, because he's just completely dumbfounded.
Yeah.
He had no clue this was coming. Like, she had little visions of him as Tuxedo Mask that she denies, but he seems to have never even considered the idea that she was Sailor Moon, which is great. Now, here's the problem with this. It's so good, it's so dramatic, it's so awesome, and it makes no sense. Because she transforms and then the fire hits and it blows up, and Zoisite's like, excellent, they are super dead, there's certainly no way they could get out of that. And you know what? Zoisite is fucking right. What good is transforming into Sailor Moon going to do against this? We've never seen her do anything that seems to be able to combat what just happened. And yet when the smoke clears, they're not only alive, they're up at the top now, and they're just like,
I assume it was a super jump of some kind.
another super jump. Okay. Another one of these new
Sailor
super
Moon
jumps.
She just gets general superpowers, I guess.
Yeah, not clear.
But I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it. It's actually double worth it, because then the next scene is even better than this scene, because she goes, I'm here to punish you. Oh, wait, before I get to that, one of the things I love is part of the punishing she's going to do to Zoisite is going to be on behalf of Queen Beryl, because what literally happens is Zoisite goes, I'll just call up Queen Beryl and say Mamoru died in an accident. And then Sailor Moon's like, oh, you are a giant liar. I'm going to punish you for lying. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, he lied to them too, but the most recent lie is to Queen Beryl, so that's pretty funny. Anyway, yeah, Zoisite goes, oh yeah, I'll get you, I'm gonna kill you and Tuxedo Mask, so I don't know what the problem is. And she's like, Tuxedo Mask isn't here, idiot. And the voice from behind her goes, yeah, I am. She's like, what?
And then there's
Slow head turn.
there's this amazing scene in memory, and he's got like his hand in his jacket.
Yes.
And then he just kind of pulls out a rose.
Pulls out the rose.
Like,
oh my god! In the Deke version, they played the Spanish guitar like "did-did-dum," like
Of
for
course.
the second when the rose came out, and it was hilarious. And I'm really sad it wasn't in the Japanese, because I remember that went from the Deke, and I watched the Japanese, and it was like, oh man, I missed that because it was like hilarious.
They also put in a thought of Serena in the Deke version, where she says to herself in her head, like a freaking robot, oh my god, he really is Tuxedo Mask. Like,
oh yeah,
like that. Like, it's not like, oh my god, it's like, oh my god, it's true, he really is Tuxedo Mask. Very weird. Very weird.
It was weird. It kind of all vocal fry, you know, like, oh, I can't believe it's Tuxedo Mask.
And then we get to see his transformation.
I just love him pulling out the rose like, huh? Like, what's up? Like, it's me. I got a rose.
I got a rose.
That is a really hilarious look on his face. Like,
But because at this point he holds all the cards.
His transformation sequence remains hilarious because because he, throws his hat and his hat comes around like a boomerang and then just kind of hovers over his head and then just drops onto his head.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to come back to his hand because his hand is still out, but it goes.
It is the worst superhero pose of all time. It still can't beat the live action sequence where they show him putting on clothes, like action, like putting on a jacket. There's one of him literally pulling pants on. It's like, because it's just clothes, right? So when he has a transformation sequence, part of it is dramatically pulling pants up around his waist.
That's great.
And
yeah.
And then Usagi has some amazing, like, watercolory, like, markery flashbacks.
Yes.
Connecting Mamoru to Tuxedo Mask. And the first one is from the first episode where he is holding up her paper that she got a 30 on and mocking her on the street.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
This part was actually, this is the one thing that I think was cut from the Deke.
Yeah,
These watercolors, if I'm remembering it.
It was not there, unfortunately.
So it's that, and then Tuxedo Mask saying, crying won't solve anything. And then back to Mamoru, and he's like, you're an idiot, bunhead. And then back to Tuxedo Mask going, you're today's star, Sailor Moon. It's like, what? And then don't eat too much. You're going to turn into food. It's like all this is doing is illustrating how terrible their relationship is.
It is. It's like, how could you treat me this way? Is it because I'm wearing this outfit all of a sudden? It's like the boyfriend who's like really mean to waitstaff. And it's like, you just treat me different because I'm your girlfriend? Like, but are you truly a terrible person? She's like quickly like in her head, she's like, is it worth it? He's really hot. But he's also awful. But he's also Tuxedo Mask, weighing it all out.
So she goes to him, you're injured though. Like, get out of here. I'll fight them. You're gonna die. Like, don't do this.
Yeah,
and he's
you're
like,
still literally bleeding out from a stab wound you have had for 24 hours.
I can't tell because your cape is red, but I'm sure you're still bleeding. And he's like, no, forget it. I'm going to protect you. That's what I do. I promised it. And then here we go, Leanne. Here's what you were alluding to earlier. Zoisite goes, look, hey, you know what? There's no reason we can't just settle this in a simple, straightforward fight that is totally above board in all ways.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is the exact same situation, Mamoru. Only like now Zoisite is also angry and desperate. So like there's even less reason for you to listen to anything that he's saying. And he's like, clearly we can both agree here that now we're gonna fight fair. And like Sailor Moon doesn't say like, wait a minute, like he could be lying. It's just everything here, they're so involved in their own drama that they don't even like start using their brains. They're just like, I'm gonna do the heroic hero thing, so I'm clearly gonna die anyway. Like I don't know how he thinks he can possibly win this, but it's like, you know what I mean? They're so like, I have to say this line, and then Zoisite punches them in the face. You know, like this is why Zoisite's so amazing.
So yeah, so
I do feel bad for you guys. Let's do this the right way. Stab. Like, what did you think, guys?
Yeah, Zoisite secretly summons a crystal behind Sailor Moon. Now there's
gigantic crystal.
a gigantic pointy crystal.
It's so huge.
But I don't understand the physics of this part a little bit because now tell me I'm wrong. It looks like the plan is I'm going to stab Sailor Moon in the back, right? Or no?
This was always
Yes.
really unclear. I think in the dub they added a line where he said Sailor Moon look out because it looks like that's what's happening here, but it's not that clear.
So what I got when I watched the Japanese version, what I got was it's going to stab Sailor Moon. We then cut to Silhouette World where you see it stabbing someone, and then you pull back and you find out Tuxedo Mask jumped in front of it. I guess.
I think so.
Even though he is like nowhere near in position to do that. Last time we saw it, like not even close. In the Deke version, they changed it around a little bit so it looks less like it was ever going to hit Sailor Moon and more like this was the intended. It was always just going to hit Tuxedo Mask. I
thought he said look out to her.
Maybe I thought she said look out. Maybe I'm backwards. I can double check.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a weird thing. They definitely rearranged some of the shots too. Like so which was very strange.
Yeah, not well done, this part.
No, very confusing. What was your take on it, Chris? What did you think happened there?
I always assumed that it was Tuxedo Mask pushing her out of the way.
Yeah, it's just like he's like 50 feet in front of her, and this crystal is behind
not that
her.
far.
It's pretty far. Let's see. I'm watching the Deke version right now. Here's what they do. And I'll turn up the volume so I can hear what is said. So the crystal is there. It appears. It starts flying towards you. You get that shot of Sailor Moon's back, which is all weird. And you get that shot of Tuxedo Mask turning, that super dramatic turning his head shot, Mm-hmm. And then they play that. Then it stabs into his back in the black outline. Then they play the turning head shot again in reverse.
Backwards, right? Yeah. So.
Okay, so in the original, you see the shot of Darien or Mamoru turning his head, and then you see the crystal flying towards Sailor Moon. So he would seize it going towards her first,
right?
Which makes me feel like he jumped in front of it.
I think that's what it really is.
But I think they also cut out that silhouette of him being stabbed, I think. In the
no, they showed it just very briefly. The big one. You're right. The big one of the big shadow with the giant shard sticking out of him. Yeah, they cut that out.
Which might be why they show that shot in reverse, that's supposed to be like, I'm recoiling in pain without showing the
right
more violent.
So he collapses on the ground. She grabs him. He's so going to die at this point because it's a giant crystal. And he's like, don't look like you're about to cry.
He has been super impaled.
Really has.
This is the second of 3 times that Mamoru Chiba will be impaled by a giant crystal.
That's true. So then the scouts show up again.
Sometimes you just have bad luck about that stuff.
Yeah. The scouts show up at the top of the staircase, not winded at all.
I like how they're there now. Like I think they've been there for a while.
What? They're just watching.
Just I think Ray's like, let's just see how this plays out.
No. That's her boyfriend. Oh, she doesn't know that. Yeah, she doesn't know that, right? She doesn't. She won't recognize him. He's wearing a mask.
Exactly.
So They're too late. He's been stabbed to death. Although again, you know what? That's funny. She does go tuxedo mask. They say tuxedo mask about 20 times in like the span of like a minute. She doesn't recognize him, even though his mask is off. But the magic of love and tears
Literally
starts to happen.
Literally the magic of tears.
Her tear, yeah.
Just like Ash and all the Pokemon in Pokemon the movie.
Oh, does that happen? There you go.
Oh yeah. Oh, Jordan. You don't know how emotional that movie gets.
I don't. Listen.
There's one Pikachu that is trying to get another Pikachu to fight, and the other Pikachu won't fight back. So there's one Pikachu just punching another one in the face.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
For a long time.
The only Pokemon, we were just talking about this with people at work. The only Pokemon I've ever seen and the only Digimon I've ever seen is the opening credits of both shows. That's it.
Digimon is a masterpiece. Anyway,
Pokemon is amazing.
Discussion for another time.
Her tear falls and magically pulls the magical crystals from wherever they are. Honestly, I can't tell where he is. Like where Malachite is. Like he could be back at home with these crystals and they just fly away. He has
bailed.
He's gone.
Clearly.
He is as far away as possible from Zoisite.
But the crystals start floating and then they fly away and they fly and shrink and fly into her tear. And then they all combine to transform and make the silver, what is it called? The legendary silver crystal. Yes.
Ginzuisho, I think in Japanese, or the Imperium silver crystal in the geek version.
Right. And it flies onto the moonstick and places itself on the moonstick. Well, that's pretty much it.
When they realize she's the princess.
Then does she grab it? I guess, yeah. She gets up and she is transformed into the Moon Princess. And she has like creepy dead eyes. Dress. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically an outfit change, but that's how we know now that she's the princess. That, like, oh my God. Like
dress looks like a princess dress. Exactly. Yeah. You couldn't be a peasant.
Oh, you know
dress.
what? The crescent shows up on her forehead. That's actually the really important part. But the dress is like also like driving it home, right?
She's finally
Which
awakened.
is something that there's a bit in the manga where when Artemis goes like, oh, Sailor V is actually the Moon Princess. Sailor Moon goes, Moon Princess, and then her tiara turns into a crescent moon a little bit, and she's like, huh, I feel like I'm almost remembering something. And it's like, yeah, I know what you're remembering.
What?
You are the actual Moon Princess.
Now, for people who are fans of Adventure Time, in one of the Fiona and Cake episodes, I think the first one, the gender swap, when Fiona goes to a party, she's wearing this dress, like the Princess Serenity dress. It's a Sailor Moon reference. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that's what it was.
I think it was pretty obvious. Like, if you were looking for it, not like you would pick it out of a crowd, but I think it was a clear homage to it because it has those like ringlets along the bodice. Yeah.
It's unsurprising given how much Natasha Allegri, who designed the Fiona and Cake characters, like how much Sailor Moon she has drawn on her Tumblr.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that does it though, right? Like Artemis goes up, the Moon Princess is here,
and that's it.
And that's that.
I think in the Deke episode, it ends with Serena going like, "Oh my God, I'm a princess," as if, or something like crazy like that.
Yeah, it's really casual. It's kind of amazing. They always bring it back home to like, I'm just a normal girl, making some sort of snappy one-liner.
Oh my God, I'm the Moon Princess, as if. That is, this show is beautiful and perfect.
This is a wonderful episode, and I don't understand why you wouldn't like it. It's so beautiful and it's so emotional, and it's just like when the two moments when they both reveal themselves. They get me every time. They just absolutely get me. And I'm just like, oh, it's all happening.
It's not that I don't like it. Like, I still like the show. It's just that I prefer episodes of a slightly different style is all.
It's it's because you don't like their romance. They're not your OTP.
I mean, yeah, like part of it is that. Like these are characters that I don't particularly want to see hook up with each other. So who cares? No, like I like it. And again, I certainly like the this version. And I hate to be a broken record, and I hate to make it sound like I don't like Takeuchi's manga, because I do. Like I really, I like everything Sailor Moon more than I like most things that are not Sailor Moon.
Yeah,
sure.
So it's not like I don't like the manga at all. It's just that I do definitely prefer this to the manga version, largely because I gravitate towards, and Jordan, I think you know this. We've worked together, like I gravitate towards, big set pieces, like exciting settings for action. And I think you get those in this episode. And I think it makes a little more sense than the way it plays out in the manga. But like, I am way more interested in Usagi Tsukino, teenage superheroine, than I am Princess Serenity, reincarnated monarch of the moon. I like, both aspects of her character, certainly. But like, I like Batman as a world traveling superhero more than I like Batman as a, gritty street level detective. I like both of those things. I like the X-Men as a school more than I like the X-Men as a weird paramilitary strike force. Like there are different aspects of things that I like more, even though I like the thing as a whole. I mean, this is not my favorite incarnation of Sailor Moon. I
agree with you in the respect of like, yes, Usagi is way more interesting than the Moon Princess, but like, that's their romance. This is their romance blossoming.
In the manga version, there was, when she's discovering who he is, when they're in his apartment, and he just like changed. There's that part where she like picks up his mask and puts it on him, right? And she's like, your tuxedo mask. You read this recently, right? It was either she puts the mask on him or takes it off. I can't remember, but there was something where it's so intimate. So when I was young, I really loved that aspect of the manga where like she kind of walks right up to him and just touches his face. It's like, you are the one, like, as opposed to this where, it's like there's fire coming and there's, even though this is so great and it's like really, really epic, that's one of those fundamental differences between the anime and the manga. The manga is way more personal and emotional. It's less about the giant action scenes of the fights, the cool settings, and it's really more about like, yeah, you're alone in his apartment and you put the mask on his face and you're like, you son of a bitch. Like that's very reflective of why the manga is so good. So I definitely, when I discovered that, I was really excited as a teenager. I was like, "Ooh, this version is fun too."
I think the scene in the manga like is really interesting in a completely different way. And it is Usagi waking up in his apartment, and he's like standing there in a ruffled shirt with a bow tie and suspenders on, with his top hat, mask, and cape on the couch. And she goes, "Oh, I get it now." And that scene where she puts the mask on him is really great. And the way that he kind of relates everything to her, and he's like, yeah, I'm Tuxedo Mask. I don't know why I do this. This is what happened. Like, I went on a drive with my parents and the car went off a cliff. I don't remember anything. And ever since, I've been like compelled to do this. It's really like,
ever since I was 6,
I don't know what's wrong with me. So it's,
and he wants her to know at that point. Yeah. Like, he's like, let's cards on the table, which is very different from how it played out in the anime, which is interesting.
Yeah, the way that it plays out in the anime is very much the traditional sort of. I don't know if it's necessarily Western superheroics because I haven't read a lot of shonen manga, enough to make a generalization. But it's certainly more like the traditional Western superheroic idea of like, oh, this is where the two characters with secret identities figure it all out. They have to reveal it to each other because they're in a crisis situation.
Yeah, which is great. And then the shoujo version, which is like, I got to tell you, I don't know why I do this, but I need you to know that I am doing this. And it's like, oh man, it's so great.
Yeah, definitely. Like, again, not my favorite, but I still like it.
There is one other big thing we didn't talk about. Which is the song. Now, Chris is not familiar with this song, but in the DiC version, and there's a song actually in the Japanese version. I forget what it's called, but I know it has a title and it's a big deal as well. But in the DiC version, they replaced it with a song called My Only Love, and it rules.
Oh, it's so good.
It is absolutely perfect. It's like this romantic little song. So I'm going to throw my hat over the wall and say I'm going to do this. So now you will all know that I'm a disgrace if I don't. We have about a week before this episode has to get edited and put up. In that week, I intend to record that song and play it as the end theme of this song. It? Yes.
Nice.
Just like, because I do the theme song of the show is me. So I'm going to play it at the end as the end theme of this episode. And if it doesn't play, you will all know I'm a failure and you can make fun of it.
Unless you cut this part out.
I'm not going to cut this part out. I have integrity.
Amazing.
Even if you do it, can I still make fun of you?
Nope. Because you're gonna hear it and you're gonna go, my heart is opened and moved, and now I love this episode.
That doesn't sound like me.
The Japanese version of this song, or rather the song they played instead of My Only Love, I think is inferior. It sounds like I think a lot of the music in Sailor Moon sounds like lounge music or something you'd hear in an elevator. Like I'm not wild for the original Japanese soundtrack. I much prefer the Saturday morning cartoon sort of soundtrack that Deke put on. But also this sounded like an older woman singing some sort of like dated love song that old people would like, as opposed to My Only Love, which is very much like sounded like a 16-year-old recording artist wrote this song, like an early Taylor Swift version of like kind of poppy and young and vulnerable and just like sweet and simple. And it fits so beautifully here.
Yeah.
And even though the entire Deke soundtrack to Sailor Moon, when they did original songs, were like really great. I mean, I think so much, like Rainy Day Man with the Jupiter's First Appearance. Like these are great little pop songs. I think they also just kind of, I feel like they matched Sailor Moon better than the original soundtrack, which was this more like, traditional older lady singing these epic songs that'd be like an opening to I mean, they feel a little, not sitcom-y, but you know what I mean? They felt more adult. They felt more classic and almost retro and stuff, whereas the Deke version was really at all times aimed for a younger audience.
Absolutely.
And that included like kind of more teenagery stuff, including the soundtrack. So, and that's why I think My Only Love works on a lot of levels. It felt like something that she would sing, that
it's a very
she came up with.
Simple and unsubtle song. Like it's not, it just kind of says, I feel like I love you so much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it also is like a really simplistic song. The pattern of the song is verse, chorus, done.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. But it sounds like something that she wrote in romantic angst in her room as a poem, and then she set music to it, and then she put it in a diary and never let anyone see it. Like that's what this song feels like, which is perfect. So anyway, I love it so much.
So Chris, you'll hear it soon, Chris.
I am looking forward to it because I listen to our show. Can't get enough of it.
I'll make sure you hear it.
No, I actually do listen to the show.
Good.
But what did we learn from this? Was there a Sailor Moon says in this episode?
There sure was.
Surely.
There absolutely was.
Okay. All right. I gotta know what they said about this one.
All right. Here we go.
What did we learn, Jordan? Do we have it queued?
Yep.
Darien got injured by that scheming lowlife Zoisite, but we all get hurt every day in a lot less unusual ways. Like running too fast. Right. Never run on a slick wet surface or with sharp objects in your hands. And pay attention to what you're doing and where you're going.
Don't be an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah, take your time and think about what you're doing while you're doing it. Sailor Moon says...
Oh my god!
Okay, first question, was Luna drunk?
Luna, again, it's to do with the clip. They showed the clip from the clock episode where she's trying to jump through the portal and then it turns back into a wall and she goes face first into the wall. And then that's when she said it, when she had like all lines on her face.
Scissors, kids.
Yeah, that's what it was. Don't run with scissors.
That, again, good advice.
Don't run quickly on a slick surface.
Sailor Moon says is like a treasure from old generations that must be kept alive.
I don't know. I don't know why cartoons stopped doing this. I wish, how great would it be if, I don't know, at the end of Gravity Falls, Uncle Stan came out and he was like, "Hey kids, we've had a lot of fun today." Why did they ever stop doing these?
Oh, they're such a product of the time. It's like when you'd play video games, they say don't do drugs, I really miss that. I mean, I think all kids made fun of it because it was a very hollow, sort of pandering.
You're talking about winners don't use drugs? A quote from William F. Sessions, director of the FBI.
Yeah, exactly. In video games and stuff. That has largely died out. I think they try to get kids through those cool don't smoke commercials, which to be fair are actually pretty cool these days. But that kind of blatant, hey kids, while you're here, do the, vote for the following candidate or, make sure you shower. You got to shower every day now, guys. Seriously.
Well, it was some law thing, wasn't it? It was legally mandated for some reason.
In Sailor Moon, I think it was mandated by Canadian broadcasting standards. I think if it was considered a kids show, you needed to have a certain amount of educational content. But yeah, I think it was, George Bush was big on that, I think, over here, where there was a Don't Do Drugs crossover cartoon that came out
Cartoon All Stars to the Rescue.
Yeah, with Ninja Turtles hanging out with the Smurfs, hanging out with, maybe not Smurfs, but oh my God, you don't know about this?
No.
How do you not know about Cartoon All Stars to the Rescue, Jordan?
I don't remember it.
This was why don't you explain it, Chris?
Okay, it's an anti-drug special. It's like a half-hour special. And the big deal was, like, it was the stars of all the Saturday morning cartoons, like, together. Like, Garfield is in it, and Bugs Bunny's in it, and the Ninja Turtles. It's like, it's like a big crossover that's all about, like, telling kids not to do drugs.
But there was a plot. Like, it was like a kid steals money from his little sister's piggy bank because he needs to go buy drugs. And as he's going to buy drugs, all these cartoon characters are like bumping into him and telling him to stop. Like, they're like, you know, maybe you should rethink what you're doing. And he's like, I don't need to. Michelangelo, you can't tell me what to do, and runs off. And it's like slowly all the cartoons are like wearing down his, you know, because he knows what he's doing is wrong. Maybe I'm remembering some of it wrong, but.
Here's who's in it.
Yeah, I just called that up as well. It's crazy.
Alf
Chipmunks. The animated Alf, because there was an Alf cartoon at one point. Alf Mania swept the nation. There was Huey, Dewey, and Louie from DuckTales, Garfield, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Kermit, Piggy, and Gonzo from the Muppet Babies, Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, Slimer from the Ghostbusters, Papa Smurf, Brainy Smurf, and Hefty Smurf, and Michelangelo the Ninja Turtle.
Holy crap.
Yeah, and the opening
all telling kids not to buy weed.
Yeah, and like the opening was the president and Barbara Bush being like, you know, remember kids, don't like this was a very big marketing campaign, like anti-drug. And when I was a kid, I was so psyched about this. Like we were the whole family got together and we were going to record it and everything. And I think we did. Cause I remember always fast forwarding to the part where Michelangelo shows up. Cause it was like, that's why I was there really. But yeah, awesome.
It has a song written by Howard Ashman and Alan Menken, apparently. Oh. Wonderful Ways to Say No. It's called the song. Wow.
Jeez, that might've been at the end. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I should watch it. It looks like it's up on YouTube. It's a half hour long.
I'm sure it is on YouTube.
Yeah, and I mean, like, rights issues prevent it from being, like, legally released.
Yeah.
But you could get, like, a VHS tape of it.
Wait.
Like, McDonald's, I feel like.
It says it was originally simulcast on all 4 networks.
Yeah.
It was on ABC, NBC, Fox, and CBS at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I remember it was a really big deal. Yeah.
Holy crap. Maybe I must have seen it. I must have. What year did it come out? 1990? I was 10 years
1990.
Old. So there's
Are
no
you
way.
The same age? Oh no, you just said 1990. You were 10. I'm sorry, I forgot how old I am.
How old were you in 1990?
I was 8. I was 10 in 92.
Yeah, same here.
Wow.
Yeah, like, and that is the reason I have never done drugs. Because I always think about Michelangelo telling me it would be a bad idea.
Like,
and when has he ever steered me wrong?
Because he's a party dude, but not that kind of party.
Yeah,
exactly.
He wants to put jelly beans on his pizza and not smoke up.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that stuff's for losers.
Yeah, well, I just found it on YouTube, so all right, I'll totally watch it later.
All right, well, I guess that's what you're doing today. So, what did we learn from this show? Liam, what did you learn from Crystal Clear Destiny?
What didn't I learn, man? This is like. Like all of the things that you think you can handle, you can't. All those people you think you hate, you love them. Like all those people that you think you're hiding from, they knew all along and they're coming for you. I mean, it's just like, this is the episode that you were a child and now you're an adult and you have to face the adult world. Not even you're an adult, rather. Now the adult world has opened up and you've got to get your shit together and face it, which is why this is such a great episode.
It's a great episode.
All right, then. Jordan, what did you learn from did you have an equally harrowing lesson?